How you doing?
Hey everyone. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi Joel. Hi Andrea. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, if you can go into the attendance sheet and sign at the appropriate column. Hi Dan. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. I see you working from office.
Yes. Yeah. Never stopped.
Never stop, huh?
Yeah.
There's no remote work for you.
It's a better setup.
Yes.
And, I like the separation between work and home.
Yeah, it's hard to define that. Sometimes for us who work from home, it's a blur that doesn't get very clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had left it open to our employees back, just whoever was more comfortable, didn't want to come in. Either they had when they had young kids at home and they needed to be, they had online learning. They needed to be home for that, or they had really young kids, or they lived with an older parent. So there was concern. So about half the staff was, from home, and the other half came in.
Cool. And remind me where in the Bay Area your office is?
We're in Sacramento, actually.
Oh, Sacramento. Okay. I started to book I live in Pittsburgh, which is like 40 minutes north of San Francisco.
Right.
So then I started booking my flights from Sacramento because traffic make it better to go there.
Right.
Like I'm sort of at the midpoint in between, and it's so much easier.
Sacramento's easy in, easy out, and
Yeah.
parking's easy. The getting on a bus from the long-term lot to the terminals, that's easy.
Yeah.
Just that Sacramento doesn't fly as many places, so.
And it's not as packed as SFO. Yeah. Okay. I'll start sharing my screen. Let's see. Chat here. Okay, I see more people calling in. All right, just a quick announcement. Next Thursday, there's no class. I think I'm going to be busy helping my dad getting out of some medical treatment. So I'm not going to be available, and what that means is I'll add an extra class at the end. Sorry about that. The syllabus reflect the new shift, and so the class number 18, the last class, I think is going to happen on on March 31st. I reviewed the date. It looks like I had missed the proper sequence of dates, and I review it today. And I think in the past I had like 4. The first week of April as the last week, but that's not true. So no class on the 10th, no class next Thursday. And then for today, we're just slightly behind schedule. I'm going to continue talking about walls, custom walls, ways to create custom walls with custom materials and composite walls. And then grids and columns, no, grids and floors. We'll see how far we go with these topics. It all depends on, we're going to apply all this in the Casa Mila data sets. And yeah, next week we're probably going to pick up the structural elements for next week. I'm going to catch up on the 15 because we have loading and managing component families. We already covered this. This was way of bringing RFA into the project from a library of components. So this is already covered. Curtain walls is a big topic, so that's going to take a full class. So I think the topics between 3 and 4, we're going to catch up on the 5th. Then we're going to create finishes, materials, ramp, stairs, railings, and all these topics, we're going to apply it to the small residence that we're building on. Today, we are going to use the data set that we left last time. And I'm not sure if you were able to finish, but to give everyone the same starting point for today, you can go into the Google Drive, and I placed a copy of the data set I created last time. It's called Mila Hit Start 2. I'm going to get the link here and post it on the chat panel. If you finish, you can continue with what you had last week. So no need to download if you were at the same point as myself. But if you were not able to complete the massing, you could just grab the file and be at the same start point as me. This is where we left last time. We created the 2 conceptual representation of mass, and we called this was an in-place family. In-place families are content that is created on the fly inside a project. And we created this envelope representation of the house. You don't have to do this, but I'm just going to review this very quickly, the process again. I think as a homework, we have to create the second half of this. In the conceptual modeling or the conceptual mass is something that you create as a model in place. And when you do that, you can also pick a category. The category is the list of properties that you can assign to the object. I'm going to call this West. Oh, that's just a category, mass. And the name of the this mass is the west massing, east massing. And again, this is how we finished last class. And we are in the massing editing environment. The only way to get out of the massing editing environment, if we click this green checkbox or the red check or the red cross here. Use the line tool to create a boundary of connected lines. And using the floor plan, I'm just gonna snap to all the intersections. These intersections is the result of having working planes. When my loop is closed, I switch to the 3D view. Then I hit escape. This is gonna stop placing boundary lines. Then I select the area in 3D view and extrude it. I hit the white space to cancel, or you can just hit escape. And then I select the top face to start modifying the dimensions. I think this was 16. In the conceptual environment, when you create a mass, you have the ability to select different elements about that mass. You can select edges. You see how I'm hovering over edges and they pre-highlight. You can select faces. A face, it's a flat geometry, or you can select vertices. And what I did is select one of the edges and resize its location relative to the ground level to 9'4". In Revit, we don't have to type the feet character nor the inch character. And then I hover over the vertice, and that vertice, I also relocate its height using these temporary dimensions. And I also make it match 9'4". And when you're done, you click the finish mass, and that's where we're at. Do we have to have massing for every conceptual house? No, we don't have to. I chose doing this this method because the geometry that the way I'm gonna create walls, roof, and floors is using mass-derived objects, and this is one method of creating these assembles. But having an overall massing usually helps with some kind of analytical tools that focus on like energy transfer and energy and energy calculations. Your Title 294, for example, does not read the Revit geometry as you created. It reads massing geometry. And so when we export models, it's good to have a massing geometry so that we can work with and export to other types of analytical tools. These any question here? Again, for those who just pop into the class, I'm going to paste again the Google Drive where you can download the file as you see on my screen. This is Mila hit start2.rvt. Okay, and if you just call in, I just made an announcement that we're not going to have a class next Thursday. And Andrea, you had a question. I see you have your hand raised.
So all my ribbons disappear. So I couldn't follow what you were doing in a minute ago because I cannot access the ribbons. So
and let me ask you this. Do you don't see any of this?
No, I see the top, like when I click to architecture, for example, then we see like wall, door, but I cannot really, I don't see all these commands there.
Thanks for pointing that out. I'm glad you brought that up, because this may happen to anyone. I know what's happening. So the ribbon has the ability to switch between different, or cycle across different ways of representation. And if you look at closely at the, one second. If you look closely at this icon right here, it's right next to the modify. There's a little oval with an arrow pointing up. And if you click on that, you can cycle between displaying panels, panel names, or not display the ribbon at all, and then display the full ribbon. And so when we click the modify button, it's very easy to click this little arrow and inadvertently change the representation of this. Is that what happened to you?
Yes, now I can see. Yes.
Okay. So again, use this button to cycle between ribbon displays. And it could happen to anyone very easily. So if suddenly you don't see the ribbon or something's weird, just remember that little icon, that arrow pointing up in the lower, on the far right side.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, now I can see. Now I can follow you. I was like, oh my God, I cannot do anything here. Okay, thanks.
Okay, the other thing that may happen, and I'm going to describe this condition as being caught on sketch mode, trap on sketch mode. So a sketch mode is a temporary display in which Revit asks the user to do a certain type of operations. A sketch mode, it's just a way to create boundaries. And then when the boundaries are completed, we need to leave sketch mode. But usually, and the only way to get out of sketch mode is to click the green arrow or the red cross. So that's this condition. Like if I'm in the middle of creating a collection of boundary lines, and I finish, I must click the green checkbox to get out of this temporary display. And so if we don't do that and we jump to another tab, everything's going to be grayed out. So I'll give you an example. You don't have to do this. I'm going to be in the floor plan and I'm going to create another component. We were doing this earlier, model in place. I'm just going to do like a door. While I'm working on this, this is a temporary display. And so if I go to other things, the user interface looks different. And so you say, what happened with a user interface? What Cesar is showing is not what I match. And so the reason this is different is because I'm still inside the editing mode. And when in order to get out of that, I have to either cancel or finish the model. I'm going to cancel because I didn't create anything. And notice how I'm back to my full working user interface. The same is true for, let's say, a floor. And we're going to work on floors in a bit. When I create a floor, this is sketch mode. And Revit is asking me to create a set of boundaries. But if I ignore that, I'm in the middle of editing and I go to the architectural tab, notice how everything is grayed out. If I go to the structural tab, everything is grayed out. If I go to the manage tab, everything is grayed out. So And notice how there is this green undertone and a contextual tab. While we are working in Revit, let's make sure that we don't get trapped in sketch mode. So this is trapped in sketch mode. Just not be aware that you are in the middle of a sketch operation, and the only way to get out of this is by clicking the green arrow or the green arrow or the red cross. Okay, everybody got the file, right? Let's see on the chat. So Savita is asking, how do we make the views? Who want to answer that question? How can I have two viewports next to each other?
You click
WT.
WT, correct. You just type WT. So open the two views. I open level 1, and then I open the 3D view. And then there are tabs right now. And then to tile them next to each other, WT. Now it switch the location, but that's fine. Did that work? Okay. All right. So let's talk about walls. A wall, it's a system family. You cannot bring walls definitions from an external file, but you can build your wall definitions inside a Revit projects. The list of walls available in the project are going to be listed under the family trees. And then you scroll down to find the walls category. And then if you click the plus sign next to the wall category, this is the name of the families, and these are all the different types. There are 3 types of walls families: basic walls, curtain walls, and stack walls. And then all these different wall types that you find in this project are provided by the project. They don't necessarily, you're not going to find this necessary in every project, in every Revit project. It depends on how your company build your template. Some companies decide to erase, to keep it clean. Some companies decide to include the top 10 frequently used interior partition types. Some companies decide to build their entire collection of walls inside the template. So the variety of wall definitions inside the wall category varies depending on what template you use to get started. The out-of-the-box template comes with at least generic walls, interior walls, and exterior walls. So let's build a wall in floor plan. So let's just pick a place in the south side. To create a new wall, you go into the architectural tab. And then hit the wall tool. Just hit the wall on top of it. And you see, I am in sketch mode, or I'm in a temporary tab. You can tell I'm in a temporary tab because you have a green background, and you also have a tab that appears in the upper right side that says modify place wall. This is a contextual tab. So let's call this thing properly. This is a contextual tab, which are tabs that are command dependent. There are a lot of different contextual tabs. If you create a ceiling, you get a ceiling contextual tab. If you create a structure, you have a structural column contextual tab. The contextual tabs are ways to minimize the user interface to be a little bit more efficient. and they present you with enhanced controls to modify and create that specific command. So the contextual tab in modify place walls, these are ways to edit, create, and manipulate any creator wall. So the contextual tab appears, and then you are presented with the in the property, you are presented with all the different type of families that you can create using the wall command. And this is another part of the interface everybody must remember. This is called the type selector. So when I say type selector, always look at the upper side of the property window. And the type selector is a way to shift options in the creation of a specific category. So I only have here element types that are part of the wall category. There's nothing else here. If I'm in the middle of creating a floor, then I'm going to see all the floors available to me in the type selector. If I'm creating furniture, then I'm going to see all the furniture available to me in the type selector. And the type selector is also a way to swap a selected object from one family type to another family type. Okay, so when I create a wall, I pick in the type selector the wall I want. So I'm just going to pick, let's say, a generic 6 inches. And then the contextual tab presents you also with, I'm going to do it again. The contextual tab also presents you with a set of options. This guys. This is called options bar. And the options bar, these are things you always need to look at when you're in the middle of creating an element in Revit. You need to look at the options that are going to impact the geometry. And so there's a different option bar for different tools. And so when I create a wall, I need to understand its height, whether it's going to be connected with levels or not. It's display a location line, it display an offset, a radius, and a joint status. So let's build one wall, and then I'm going to go through this different choices. So when you create a wall, it's a 2-click operation. You start from the left, another to the right. And then as you create more walls, notice that Revit still remembering the wall command, and then you keep clicking and you can start creating a chain of walls. You can also close the loop. To stop walls from getting created, you hit escape. And to exit the wall command, you click escape again. And so in order to exit the wall command, you need to click escape twice. The first one is to stop placement, and the second one is to exit the command. Again, I'm going to delete this and do it again. Wall, first click, second click, and then just keep creating a loop of walls. And then escape to exit the creation mode. There are, so let's get a little more granular on the properties. When I create a wall, notice that Revit automatically display for me 2 things. It displays a temporary dimension indicating the length of a wall. the temporary dimension snaps a certain site at certain distances. If you notice, my temporary dimension is at a series of 6 inches. Every 6 inches, I got a snap. But the increment of the temporary dimension is a factor of the zoom. If I zoom out and I'm just moving my wheel, notice now that the snap factor is every 4 feet. And if I zoom in a lot, like to create a detail, my snap factor in the temporary dimension, it's every inch. So the temporary dimensions are ways to get a sense of what the dimension of the final dimension of the wall is going to be, and you can use the snapping controls to go either granular at a large scale, at a very granular scale, or at a very large scale. The other thing, as you create walls, you can type on the fly the dimension of the wall. So in this case, I'm going to say, if I want a wall that is 15 feet, I just type it on the fly and then hit enter. And I got a wall with 15 feet. You can include inches or fraction of an inch. Let me show you how. You create a wall here, and then you can type, let's say it's 15, 6 1/4. So on the fly, there's no command bar where you can see where you type. You have to type on the fly. So it's 15 space 6 1/4. And then you hit enter, and that it's 15, 6 1/4 wall scape. You can also enter just inches. If you want a wall that it's 30 inches in length, just start the wall and then hit 30. But here you have to type the inch character. You can also you can do, I think you can do math. Oh, you have to start equal. Let me start this again. You type equal 30 plus 2. And that gave me a wall that is 32. Sometimes we use this mental math in order to understand what it is. So again, you start wall. And if you want to use a formula, place the equal sign, and then you go 30 minus 5 plus 2 plus 0.25. And then Revit does the whole formula for you. So these are different ways of control the length of a wall in a floor plan. Then also select, if you select a wall, you're going to see that there's a lot of icons that appear around a wall. I think the first one and easy to do is this one. This is the flip control. And the location of this flip indicates the exterior side of a wall. So a wall can have an interior side and exterior side. The location of this double arrow is the exterior side. And if you click on top of this flip control, then it just mirror it. Now notice how there's this little shift in the location. And the reason for that shift is because this wall mirrors using the location line as the axis. So what is the location line? Let me show you here on my deck. The location line is the work plane in the vertical of a wall that anchors the wall to the ground. The default location line, it's the center line. And I guess this is pretty straightforward. The center line of a wall is geometrical midpoint of the wall width. You can have also the finish face in the interior side or the exterior side, or you can have the core face. And the core face, it's the layers in the wall that behave as structural layers. In other words, the layers in the wall that transfer gravity from the roof to the ground. And so the core face is somewhere inside the wall, and you can choose to use the center line, the finish face, or the core face as a location line of a wall. The wall that you see on the screen, it's a generic wall because it doesn't have any layers inside. Now, this other segment, this is the default alignment. If I create a segment of wall using the center line, that is how they're going to get represented. If you use like the exterior face of a wall, then you're going to create a chain of walls using the exterior face of the wall as the anchor plane that connects the wall to the ground. And the core face, here is an example. This is a wall with some tile, but the core of the wall is this metal stud, and so you can align walls using the core face instead of the finish face. If I switch the wall type, that's what happened when you select that option using different conditions. So there are some strategies in which if you're doing interior office layouts, I recommend using center lines because, that's, you may disagree with me, but usually center lines of the stud, it's one way of communicating to the contractor where the steel is going to go. Other architects may think that it's the core face, the right way of anchoring that. And then for exterior walls, you may use the finish face so that if you swap wall types on the exterior side, the wall doesn't overlap towards the exterior. So when I'm creating walls in Revit, I need to be mindful of what is the location line, and that it's in the options control. And these are all the different options: center line, core, center line, finish face, exterior, interior, core face, interior, exterior. I'm going to do finish face exterior. First click, second click, escape, escape. The location line, it's something that you can disclose in the properties of a wall. It's right here, location line. And in a floor plan, the location line is defined by these grips, these blue grips that you see in the floor plan. So you can find where the location line by looking at the properties. You can also look at where those grips are. I'm going to change the location line of this wall from finish face to wall center. And notice now how the grip is at the center. I'm going to change the location line to the finish face interior. And notice now how the grips are also shifting in location. It's a visual way to communicate where that location line is. And when I hit the double arrow, the flip control, the walls are going to mirror using the location line as the axis of reflection, the axis of the mirror. Does that make sense? So if the location line is at the center line, you might not see any shift in the geometry. I am flipping this from one side to another. I don't see any shift in the wall. So if you're building, let's say, exterior walls and you want to absolutely make sure that your facade doesn't overlap the allowable limit, then you may want to use exterior face as your anchor point. And then the wall can grow towards the interior in any size, but you're not risking your project. All right, that's the location line. Another thing you will see is that you can drag the ends of a wall. If you hit on the grip of a wall, you're gonna stretch it. Stretch it in, stretch it out. These are ways to change and modify the wall. I'm going to delete everything I have here, because I want to show you now how to create loops of walls with the similar shape. So how do we create an arc wall? Well, we use draw lines, and the draw lines give me different options to draw walls that are not orthogonal. So hit the wall tool, and the contextual tab is going to display the draw tools. Here you can create line-based walls. You can create rectangular walls, circular walls. You can create polygons, either inscribe or circumscribe. You can create start and radius. You can also create center ends and arc, tangent and arc, and fillet arc, peak line arcs, partial ellipse. So all these are different ways of creating different shapes of walls. The rectangle one is the easiest one. You want to try it, just hit the rectangle tool. And this is a quick, easy way of creating an office or a room. You can also create a circular wall. Or you have these two methods of creating an arc wall. The starting radius. The first click is the first point of an arc. The second click is the end point of an arc. And then you define the radius. You can define the radius intuitively, like I'm doing right now, or you can just type the value of the radius afterwards. Select the wall, hit the radius temporary dimension, and change this to 20, and then it will change the wall for you. You can also create polygonal walls by defining the radius of a circle. Let's do that very quick. Like if I want to create a hexagon of walls, just hit the inscribe polygon option, hit a point on the screen, and start creating and define the radius of a circle. And these, I have 4, 5, 6, and then that increase. We can also change the number of sides. I want something that is 10 sides. That's a 10-side wall. You can also create elliptical walls. This is rare, but sometimes you can create elliptical walls for feature spaces or conference room, or to create the Oval Office. So you create an ellipse, you define the long axis and then a point in the short axis, and that is an ellipse. All right, so I create a bunch of different walls in the south side of my project. Just as a placeholder, I'm going to delete everything. It's just so that we have a little fun in our playground. All right, there's another method of creating walls, and this is using the wall by face. Well, before we get that, let me show you what is a compound wall. A compound wall, it's a symbol made of walls with multiple types of layers. And as users, we have the ability to create a wall assemble that's a combination of structural layers, finish layers, and insulation layers. We have, when we create a wall from scratch, we usually start with a generic one, a wall that doesn't have any different type of layering information. But then we can get a little bit more complex by adding layer thickness, layer material, and performance type, or what is the function of that wall, of that layer. And so when we have a wall, and again, I'm going to do a wall, a generic one. You can access the internal properties of the wall if you look at the type properties. Type properties are right here, remember. And this is going to be on the test. What is type properties? Are properties that are common across all elements of the same type. And if you change a type property, you change them for all the geometries that are existing in the project that are of the same type. So when I edit the type properties, you see this type properties dialog box. And again, these are walls. And remember, this is the way to find if something is a system family or a component family. And it just tells you this is a system family. And what that means, you cannot save it as an external file. This is the type called 6 inches. And if you click this drop-down list, these are all the list of types available in the project. These are the type parameters grouped by functions. And if I want to create a new type based on an existing one, we need to follow a very simple rule. And this is important, so I'm going to type it. This is create new types. Step number 1, duplicate a type. Step number 2, rename it. And step number 3, change parameter values. It's important to create new types so that we don't affect or impact the definition of something that's already existing in the project. And so if I want to create a new wall type based on a new one, we start with a placeholder. In this case, my placeholder is the generic 6 inches. Then I edit the type. And then apply the 3 rules. Duplicate it, rule number 1. Rename it, rule number 2. I'm going to call this custom wall. And rule number 3, change parameter values. So I can start editing the values of these wall type without impacting the one that's already living in the project. So let's open the structure edit button. And so this is don't be scared. This is a tabular representation of wall layers and wall properties. And so right now, this wall, it's made of a single layer that is 6 inches in thickness. That layer plays the role of a structural material. It has a structural function, and it doesn't have any material. It's the material is defined by category. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to select this wall, and then I'm going to edit the type, and I'm going to duplicate it. No, I'm going to select this wall, and I'm going to swap the type. So let's pick one of the more sophisticated ones here. Let's use this exterior brick on metal stud. And notice how now the wall starts to project some internal layers. And the layers inside a wall can be switched on and off using the coarse, using this coarse view. So if I switch the property to coarse, you don't see anything. And this is a good wall representation for overall floor plans, right? If we're doing detailing or we're doing wall sections, then we want to disclose the layers by swapping the this control to fine. And then when this is fine, then it will expose all the internal layers. So I'm going to leave it as fine. Detail level, I'm going to leave it as fine. So just select the wall. No, select the view. This is a property of the view. And then select it's fine. To access the internal configuration of this wall, edit the type. And then in the structural button, hit the edit button. And this is a little more complex than the previous one, right? So let me explain what this means. This is a display of layers from the exterior side to the interior side. And you can see that it says exterior here and it says interior here. So on floor plan, I'm going to find the double arrow on the exterior side. Then these layers are sorted by number, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first column. Then we have another one called function, another one called material, another called thickness, and then another column that's called a wrap, whether the structural is material and where it has variable thickness. The easiest column to understand is the thickness. That's the total thickness per specification. The other one that's easy to understand is what is the material. We haven't talked about materials, but know that if you hit the material cell and you hit those 3 little dots on the right side of the material cell, you can launch the material library, which display the list of materials available in the project. I'm going to have a full class dedicated to materials, so don't worry about that now. Then there's another column called function, and the function has a property followed by a number in brackets. So the description, it's a way to describe what is the type of performance associated with a layer in the assemble. And you have five types of functions. Two of them are similar. You have finish 1 and 2. Finish means that you can have a finish in the interior and in the exterior using a different number. You have a thermal air layer, you have membrane layer, and substrate. And so these different functions, if you hit the function cell, you can swap the function by choosing another option in this drop-down menu. But then notice also there is a number in brackets. So again, this is in the test. This number here is called the priority number. And the priority number is Revit educated guess. It's not always perfect on how layers should connect. Let me show you that in this slide. So in addition to the function of the layers, we also have priorities. And priorities, it's Revit way to understand how corner conditions work. So layers that have priority 1 always connect directly. So I have two dissimilar wall types in this plan, but notice how the CMU in this wall connect directly with the metal stud in the other wall. And they both have structural properties, and therefore they both have priority 1. And priority 1, that means that connect those layers first. Then we have sheeting in one wall type, and then we have we don't have any sheeting in this other in the perpendicular wall. And because that priority is missing, then the sheeting stops right here. There's nothing to connect to. The other wall definition doesn't have a priority to enable. We have thermal insulation layers, the airspace for moving the air across the assemble, and that is priority 3. And it has exactly the same material as the priority 3 in the perpendicular wall. And because they both have the same material, then the connection is seamless. You can see that the two priorities with the same material, they will merge. Notice how that doesn't happen with priority 1. The CMU, even though they are both play structural function, one is CMU, the other one is metal stud. And because they have the similar material, they don't merge. But the airspace is the same in both wall types. And they play the same function and they have the same priority. And that's why you see this seamless connection. And then the final two priorities, priority 4 and priority 5, those are finish priorities. Notice how one wall has a brick layer, the other wall also has a brick layer, and they both have exactly the same priority. So the materials connect seamlessly in a corner condition. All right, so let's go back to Revit. So when we are defining functions, we're also defining the priority numbers. And so Notice this, the display of these layers can be previewed using the preview button in the lower left side of this dialog box. And they are represented from top to bottom. So this is the finish. The thermal layer is this one. They want a membrane layer, knowing that membrane layers are like paper filtration barriers. And they are so thin that they don't need to be geometrically represented. So they have a typical thickness of 0. So whenever you use membrane layers, then they have a 0 finish. Oh, sorry, this is the membrane layer. It's paper thin. And then I have this yellow one, that's the substrate, that is the plywood. And then row number 5 and row number 7, those are not materials. And they don't have any thickness. These are the dividers inside. These are like ways to indicate the user or the Revit that any wall that is between the layer above and the layer below, those are the structural core. And so remember the core location line, that's how we define where the core is. So core, boundary, wrap above and below, these are just dividers, visual dividers. They have nothing to do with layers. These are just visual dividers that anything that is in between have a structural, is a structural core of the building. The structural core of the building can have multiple layers. You can have maybe a double CMU wall, and then you add 2 6-inch CMU wall as independent wall. The core boundary layers are the only ones where you can check the structural checkbox. So notice if you scroll that to the right, that there is a checkbox called a structural material. These checkbox, it's important, not for me, not for the architect, but it's good for the structural engineer. The structural engineers want to know how the weight travel down a wall. And so if this checkbox is on, that's usually indicate that that is the core of the building, the core of the wall. And then on the exterior side, we have a membrane layer, which is a vapor retirer. And then we have a finish, which is a gypsum wallboard. And so this assemble is defined by its functions, their materials, their thickness, and structural material. Any question here?
Cesar, can you change location of the core position within the chart, within the, the hierarchy? Or is that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I can move this back upwards or downwards.
Mhm.
So let's say I want to move the core. I could control select. No, I have to do it one by one. Like I can select the row number 5 and I hit up, and I'm increasing the number of core layers. I can select the metal stud layer. No, I can select the layer below, move it down. Then I can select layer stud, move it down. And then I can select the layer above wrap, move it down. And now the core, it's completely to the outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Or I can move it all to the exterior side. And then I move this up. I don't think I can do it in multiple rows at the time. I have to do it one by one.
One by one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you have to have a core. That's no, by default, if you have nothing, if this is a generic wall, then that it's a single layer, and that single layer is the core. And that's the structural material. That's the generic 6 inches. But this is a modification I did. I just moved the core to the outside,
Mhm.
etc. In fact, you know, the vapor radiator, the
Yeah.
retarder,
Right.
depending on what climate you live,
Mm,
can go either to the outside or to the inside. I can't recall exactly what the rule is. I used to know this, but you can move the vapor retarder. Any other question on this dialog box? Notice also that there are some performance properties listed in the upper left side, in addition to the family and type and the total thickness of the wall. You also have the R value and the thermal mass. And the R value may be useful for reporting this into Title 24. In particular, if you change material, the R value is defined inside of the material. Okay, there's another one no one asked, is this row that's called wrap. And wrap, it's a behavior associated with the wall caps. Material that wraps, it's a material that's going to switch perpendicular the end direction of the end caps. But this column of wrap needs to work in combination with this one. It's called the fall wrapping. So let's say I'm going to select that this wall is going to wrap at the ends. And I'm going to do interior. So what's happening is that everything that has a checkbox in this column is going to turn 90 degrees at the end cap. Obviously, that's not the way to build a wall, right? And so maybe you change this to none. Or if you want to exclude certain, for example, I don't want the brick to turn at the ends, so I disable the ability to wrap, and then I wrap the exterior and the interior. See, interior means the interior layers, the lower ones wrap towards the exterior one. If I do the exterior, is the opposite. The exterior is going to the interior, but there's nothing to wrap because there's nothing above the core. So let me cancel this and go back again. I'm gonna select, edit the type again, and make this a little bigger again. So everything that is above the core boundary, these are the exterior layers. These are called the exterior layers. And everything that is under the core boundary, those are the interior layers. So these are this, and these guys are this. And so when I wrap and I define, I tell Revit, wrap the exterior ones, notice how the exterior layers wrap into the interior ones. Or I can do the opposite. The interior ones wrap into the exterior ones. I almost never use this, to be honest. I might use this in cases where I want to like render and make sure the end caps display with the appropriate material. But for the most part, I keep this as none. The fall wrapping at inserts means that the behavior that's going to happen at doors and windows. Here's an example. This is the way the layers behave at a window location. And in this case, it's both, meaning that both the interior and the exteriors wrap and they meet at the location line of the wall. So that's the same happens here. If I select both on the inserts, if I place a window, I don't have a way to place a window in the preview, but if I place a window, both the interior and exterior are going to wrap in a window condition. Again, this is a little more advanced, but for the most part, we don't let walls to wrap. So do not wrap and do not change the wrapping at ends.
I have a question, Cesar.
Yeah.
So does Revit assign the priority always from the core to the exterior and then comes back to the interior?
A good question. So the rules of priority, it's the numbers grow from the core to the finishes in an incremental way. So you can have 1 here. The structure is always 1. And then you can grow 2, 3, 4, but you cannot have 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. Then Revit's gonna get angry. So let me show you. If I change the priority number in a non-incremental way, I'm going to change this brick to structure, and I hit OK. Revit is angry. It says layer function priorities. The priority numbers cannot ascend from the core boundary to the finished phase. So they have to go from 1 to 5, but you cannot alternate. You can also have the same value. For example, I'm going to change this to 3. And I hit OK, and this is going to accept it because this is the same function, but you cannot combine them. You cannot make them. The rule is that from the core to the exterior sides or the interior sides, it grows incrementally, but you cannot alternate them. The other thing is that finishes have 2 priorities, 4 and 5. If the finish is the same in interior and exterior, I will leave the function the same, like priority number 4 and priority number 4. If they have the similar finishes, like this case, I have gypsum wall on one side and brick in another one, then I assign 1 to 4 and then the other one to 5. The membrane layer doesn't have priority number because the membrane layer can float anywhere. It depends on what climate you are. So I can move it up and down and it's gonna work. Revit's not gonna complain about membrane layers. It's just the ones that have priority number. Any question about how this works?
I have a question. Are the functions preset in Revit?
It is preset, and I only have 5. Well, 6 if you consider the membrane. And it's sort of a limitation, but when we export the walls to GBXML, which is the format used by Title 24 analysts, this matters. This is important for them. And I think these are the basic parameters of information needed to make some energy analysis. That's basically the core of it. But they are prefixed. We cannot add or change. Okay. Okay, I'm going to cancel here. I wanted to show you how walls work. And let's go back to Mila. Let's see. Okay, I have like 20 more minutes, 25 more. Let's do the walls and the roof, and we'll be done. So if you want to watch me, okay, I don't need this wall. I'm going to delete it. This was just for a demo. I'm going to zoom to the floor plan on my level 1. And I created a wall type for you already that represent a veneer. Well, let me just show you that first. I'm going to create a wall here. And you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you the wall type I created for you. Inside here, there is a generic 2. And then that is a wall that has the following layers. It has, oh, it's not, is it this one or is, oh no, yeah, I think that's the one. Where we, okay, I'm going to select this wall. I'm going to edit the type. It's called generic 8 inches 2. And then the structural properties, it says that it has a core that is 6.5 inches. It has a wood vertical material applied to the exterior, and that it's 1.5 inches. And we're going to place this in the envelope using mass derived objects. All right, so we'll delete this. To create a new wall by face, you got to hit the drop down menu under the wall, and you're gonna see the wall by face. And a wall by face is a way to create a wall shape based on a mass object. And this is a mass, right? So we created this object already. So wall by face. And before you click any face in the model, check the options bar, because it's important to do the location line. The location line, it's the way in which the wall is going to be created relative to the face of the mass. And so the location line I'm going to choose, it's core face interior. And what that means is that the core of the wall is going to be aligned with the face of the mass. And what that means is that, and the way I'm doing that is because that core is going to be aligned with the boundary of the floor, the floor boundary. So I'm going to do core of the face interior. And then I'm going to select a face. And notice in plan how it works. So I picked the wrong one. I picked the wrong size. So I'm going to undo it. I think the one I need is the core face exterior. And then the type I'm going to choose is the generic 8.2. That's there. And then I pick the face, and there you go. That's how my wall is working. And then the wall is going to inherit, escape. The wall is going to inherit the shape of the mass face, and it's going to have the boundary sketch lines of that mass. And it's easier to model. You don't have to worry about the top, the bottom, etc. So let's repeat that. I'm going to go wall, this drop down, and select wall by face. That's step number 1. Step number 2, it's make sure you pick the location line core face exterior to align the face of the mass with the core of the wall. And then in the property window, pick the generic 8.2 in brackets and select the face of the wall, and just keep clicking. I'm going to use the shift. You can just rotate the model. You can also use the Q and keep clicking the walls to create the rest of the geometry. Now for the demise wall right at the center, one of them is going to overlap, and that's fine. We're going to fix that You see, you're gonna get, it gets angry. It says it's overlapping, but we're gonna fix that. Again, what I'm doing to rotate that is to click Shift and press the mouse wheel. And then I continue clicking. Click, 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 click. And if you look at the floor plan, I want to switch this to transparent so that we can also see the image wireframe. I'm gonna focus on the detail in this corner condition. Notice how the exterior finish, it's outside, and the core, it's sitting on top of the floor slab. And that's usually how we work on this type of construction. Okay, any question? Any hand? No.
Where did you do the transparent thing?
Oh, here I switched to wireframe, and that makes everything transparent. If I leave this to hidden line, it's solid. Now I'm probably missing a layer for my wall type. So right now I have a core and I have an exterior finish. And if you look at the Mila pictures, and you look at the interiors, all the interiors have this plywood applied on top of it. And so right now I only have the wood core, but I don't have the finish of an interior. So I'm going to modify the wall to include a plywood layer. So you all with me here? Did you finish doing this? All right, so what I'm going to do now is to add a new layer to the wall type definition. I'm going to name it correctly as well. And because notice how the interior of this space has this dark color, which is just a generic representation of the core. So select a wall, one of the exterior walls, to get started. Then edit the type and click the structure edit button. And what I need to add, it's a new layer in the interior side that it's made of plywood, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to select row number 4. I'm going to insert a new layer. When you insert layers in the in this dialog box, it's always going to move it up. It's going to insert it up. There's no insert down, unfortunately. I wish there was, but whenever you insert, it's going to insert it up. But then I'm going to use the down button to move it in place. So this new layer, it's a 1/2 inch plywood. So the thickness is 1/2 inch. So you can just override the full value. I'm going to change the function to be finish 2. Another thing that's wrong, notice how the function of this wood vertical, it's structure, it shouldn't be structure. So I'm going to change this to finish 1 and finish 2, because these are the similar materials. And then in the material for the interior, I'm going to choose plywood. So hit
Question,
on,
Cesar.
yes.
Does finish 1 always refer to the exterior and finish 2 to the interior?
I usually do that, but you can flip it, and it wouldn't have any effect.
Okay,
But
I just was.
but But if you do it consistently. I like one is exterior, two is interior. I usually keep that rule. It's just a way to keep it in order. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So row number 5, which is the new layer that we added in the material, which says by category. By category means that it's going to inherit the material properties that are globally applied to the category of walls. So that's not what we want. We want that to be exactly plywood. So you hit on the material cell, and you're going to see 3 little buttons in the right of this cell, which is a way to launch the material library. And these are the materials defined for this project. You can just scroll all the way down and find the material called plywood sheeting. And this has a color, it has a texture. It doesn't have a texture, but it has a color. So I hit OK. And you see how in the floor plan, I already have my plywood inside. And the other thing I'm going to do in the structure, I know this is wood construction. And right now it just says by category, and that's why it has that gray color. I'm going to click on the structure and those 3 little buttons next to the structure cell. And I'm going to look for stud. You can search in the material browser in the upper left side on the search cell. You can find stud, and there's only metal stud. Let's say wood. And in wood, we have softwood lumber. And the only reason it's important to define all the materials as needed, well, there are 2 reasons. So that it renders well. And second, it has the appropriate physical and thermal properties associated with the materials, which are important for analytical purposes. So softwood lumber have all these specific heat, density, emissivity, permeability. Maybe this is not important for an architect, but if we're going to transfer this information to somebody else, to an energy analysis or a Title 24, they may use or may not this information, and that information is baked with the material. So I'm going to select softwood lumber, hit OK. And I have everything as it should be. I have a finish that is plywood sheeting, 1/2 inch, a structure that it's softwood lumber, 6.5, and a finish that it's wood vertical, 1.5 inches. And then hit OK, hit OK. And now the interior finish matches, the image I have in the Miller house. Which has this nice finish. When I render, it's going to look like that. Okay, another thing you should want to look, it's these corner conditions. I think the corner at the edge, it's very clean. But Revit, there's like a primary, wall abutting a secondary one. But that is a behavior that we can override. So if you're with me at this point, let's take care of this corner conditions. And this is what we'll do. If you want to watch me first, because I'm going to explain what a corner condition is, and then we'll do it together. In corner conditions, there's always a primary one, and then there's a secondary one. The primary is the one that take importance in the corner conditions. Like this is the important one. let's switch this to key the line. Okay, but this behavior, Revit just give one behavior automatically. But what if I want to reverse the behavior? So what we do is we take care of corner conditions. The corner conditions are when you select a wall, it's one of those nested commands inside the contextual tab. And it's called wall joins. And wall joins have first ask you, how do you want to take care of a join? So you go to a corner and you see that big square, you select a corner, and then you have all these options. You can abut one wall against another one where you have the principal and the secondary. You can meter them, or you square them off. And so I'm going to use the meter to fix visually this condition. And notice now that this looks much better, both in plan and in section. So all we need to do is hit the corner condition, switch the meter, and be done with it. Let's do. We're going to repeat that for every corner, and then we're going to build a roof, and then we're done for today. So we go again. I'm going to do another corner. I'm going to deal with this in 3D now. So you go to the modify button, and then select the wall joints. Modify button, modify tab. Wall joints. Select a corner, you're going to see a big square at the ground level of the corner condition. And then pick the meter choice, and then hit escape. And we're going to do that in every corner that we see that there's not a good connection. Here's another one. Go modify tab, wall joins, select a corner, meter, wall joins, select meter, and it's only, details count in representation and documents. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm taking that great length of fixing how those connections work. Now here on the very, let me see if I can do that here as well. Yeah, I can also do it at the top here. And I can do this also on the opposite side here.
Hey, Cesar, my I can't remember what it's called. They're grayed out. When I select the wall or the walls, why would they be grayed out?
What was the question?
Why are they, mine are grayed out when I click wall join.
They are grayed out. What is grayed
Yeah.
out? The walls?
The wall joins, the butt, miter, square off, allow join, disallow join.
Oh, so modify, hit one, select this.
Oh.
You have to hit the corner condition, and then it's going to get enabled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit a corner condition, and then they're going to become available.
Okay.
So I think I just went around all the corners. And the goal is that in elevation, they look sharp and clean. I think I'm getting there to a certain point. I'll give you 1 more minute just to finish if you are at that point. Again, modify button, wall joins, select a join in the 3D model or in a floor plan, and hit the meter choice. Meter.
So how do we clean the two that are overlapping?
Oh, that's a good question. Here in the back. Yeah, let's. I don't know if I'll have time to show you today, but that's the next step. What I want to do now, before I get into it, because we all need to do it, is to show you the representation and plan. Yeah, and then I'll fix that. I'll get back to that. Okay, in plan, this is how the walls look like. But if we want to do this very graphically, like some magazines, and we want to display this wall like completely black, change the detail level to coarse, and then we're going to do something to this wall so that it looks completely black. You're going to select one of those walls. We're going to access the type properties. In the property window, find the edit type button. And then notice that under the graphics section, there is a parameter called coarse scale fill pattern and coarse scale fill color. The fill color, I think, automatically says black, and the coarse fill pattern is what patterns you want to associate to the wall when the view is set to coarse. So when this view is set to coarse, I want this wall to display solid black. And in the cell that says fill pattern, click those 3 little dots in the right side cell. Select fill color, hit OK, apply OK. And now all my, notice how they inherit the color based on the properties. But now I'm going to switch this to, why is that? Let's see. I select this wall, edit the type, solid fill, yes. Coarse view. This does it look gray on your end too? No, does it look black?
Yes.
All black.
Black.
I don't know why mine is looking like this. I mean, and maybe it's hidden line. It should look black everywhere. It might be something about my graphics. They're getting tired. Okay. All clear about how to make this. And then if I switch this to anything but coarse, then I return to if I return this to fine, then I get the full display of all the layers. It's only when the detail level is set to coarse that that this type property kicks in. The wall type property. Solid fill. Oh, you know what it is here? Maybe is the the massing. The massing is making my thing look great. So all I need to do is switch off that category in the floor plan. So I go to visibility graphic, and then I go to the mass and switch that off. No. if I go to the view, massing, and say show view by mass settings. No. Okay, I don't know why it's looking gray on my end. See if I manually hide the mass. Hide in view elements. No. I'll go figure. I don't know why it's looking like. I'll search it later. And let's see. Back to Ivana's question. How do we clean this up? So we have two overlapping walls here. One, what I need to do is to select each of them and override is shape. And so the way I'm going to do this is to, you can individually grab, there are two ways of doing this. You can individually grab the end of the demise wall and stretch it. You know how I stretch it there? Select this and you can stretch it out. And there you go. So I'm going to do it again. Select the first demise wall, click on the wall end, and then snap it to the, so that it touches the other wall. And then select this one and stretch it. And now I don't have that warning anymore. Now for the roof, when a roof works exactly the same as walls. You don't have to do this, but when I create a roof, I'm going to show you first, roof by face. And I select a generic roof and create a roof. This roof, when I build a section through it, it doesn't look as clean as it should be. So a strategy I use to have very, very clean sections. And when I mean clean sections is that both the walls and the roof connect seamlessly in a section representation, is that I create a wall by face that behaves as a roof. There's nothing wrong about applying a wall as a roof condition, in particular if it has a very similar construction type. So what I'm going to do here is go to the wall, and then wall by face, and then select the faces of the wall, the faces of the roof, and notice how the geometry like fits perfectly around every corner. If I use the roof object, that effect is not achieved. And then I'm going to do that here as well. And then they just look like a single line. And then in floor plan, when I'm going to create a quick section. I show you how to create a section. If I build a section from here to here, looking to the left and open it, notice how this black section in the roof and the walls are super clean. This looks like a representation in architectural record. They also always have that look, right? Like very artistic. Okay, so we're gonna leave it there. Save this file. I'm also gonna make a copy of this. If you fall behind, you can pick it up from there. And if you have trouble, feel free to stay with me after we close the session, and I can give you like one-on-one support. Next class, we're gonna jump into the interiors, and we're gonna build the structural elements. We're gonna build the grid system, some of the levels, the floor, and the core of these restrooms. And then the following class, we're gonna focus on the kitchen, the furniture, custom families, because a lot of the built-in cabinets you won't find them as external components. You have to create some from new. And then we're gonna create a custom table from scratch. Just to show you where we're heading out, I'm going to save this. I'm going to open the final. I have placed a final version of this house in the Google Drive. So if you open my drive, if you open the spring 2022 Mila, there's a version called Final. This is where we're heading. We're going to try to build this house I have it here. Now this is the 3D view of the house, completely built, and it closely resembles, the one that's in the magazine, and it has the right texture, the right size. So we're gonna focus on windows. Here is a curtain wall. But we just finished the exterior. So all right, save your work. If you need support, stay. Otherwise, I'll see you a week from today. There's no class on Thursday. Have a great weekend. I'll be back in San Francisco next class. So, and my apologies for not broadcasting this live in YouTube. The internet here is pretty bad, but all the classes have been recorded on the Zoom cloud. So as soon as I get to San Francisco, I'm going to download them and upload them to the YouTube channel for reference. So I'll see you all on Tuesday next week.
Thanks, Cesar.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cesar, I have a quick question. My model got offset from the plan view. Is there a way to pull it? It looks like you can, pull it around. Is there a way to snap it back where it's supposed to go? So more or less, a model doesn't align with the original floor plan that it's.
So something like this on my screen. Let me see. I think this happened to Ivana last week.
Yes,
something like this.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, so the image got shifted
Right.
inadvertently. It's not your mistake. One way, the best you can do is find, select the image in the screen, use the move command. The move command has this symbol in the modify panel. And then do your best to snap right at the center of center line B and A, and snap it to the grid line intersection. And now to prevent that from happening again, you can pin the image, and I should do that next time. I should direct everybody to do that. Select the image, and there's a pin command in the modify button, and then that is not going to move by mistake. You have to unpin it in order to modify it. Does that make sense?
That does, yep.
Yeah, that happened to me as well. With my floor plan move the walls.
Yeah, you can pin it, and then unfortunately, raster images don't have a snap to. You cannot snap to the bitmaps, and so it's just a guess. You do your best to move the image where it needs to be, and when it's there, pin it. The pin command anchors and elements to the ground. You can unpin it again by clicking the unpin modifier, but leave it pinned. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Cesar.
Okay. Anybody else need help?
I have a question. When I was drawing my walls in, they showed up outside of the plan view drawing, and I had selected finish face exterior. Is there a way to modify that retroactively?
All you need to do is you select core face interior by mistake. Is that what you did?
No, I think I had core face exterior, but it's still snapped outside.
When you select, do you have that problem right now?
Yeah, do you want me to share screen?
Yes.
I think you have to stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's set to core face exterior.
Yes, core face exterior. So what happened? Did you model it first as interior and then switch it to exterior?
I guess I must have, yeah. So
yeah, that's what happened.
So you would have to drag it?
No, you could. Let's see. Yeah, you'll have to offset it. Use the offset command. But honestly, it might be easier to redo it again because it's just a matter of clicking with the right location line. It's going to be a drag to do it one by one because you need to shift each of them to the left. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, it's the core face interior and exterior will place the wall relative to the face that you picked, and after that, when you flip the exterior control, it's a mirror, so it doesn't preserve the same location. Okay. Sorry, Michelle, you have to do it again.
No problem.
Anybody else? All good?
I have a quick question. When you're dragging the end of the wall to align with the perpendicular wall, how do you get it to align cleanly?
When I drag the end of a wall,
when you're cleaning up the middle walls and you're moving them to align to the to the perpendicular wall.
I just make sure that I drag it orthogonally. Let me share my screen.
Can you just use the trim command?
The endpoint. Oops. Do you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get. Okay, here it is. So you select this wall, right? And you see the end grip or the location line. It's displayed at the lower side of this. I did it in 3D, but you can also do it in floor plan. Probably floor plan is more precise. Grab the grip and then just stretch it. But you know, it's very easy to move towards the right or the left. If you want to keep it orthogonal, click the shift button and it's only going to move it 90 degrees. And then you snap it to the wall, snap it to the wall, and then Revit automatically is going to take care of the corner condition. And then I do the same for the other wall. Select the wall, click the grip in plan, click the shift key to drag it orthogonally, snap it to touch the wall, and Revit's going to take care of that corner. So the snap perpendicular doesn't have to be that precise. You just drag it to touch the wall, and then Revit likes to connect things together. Okay. Casey, I see you on the line. I don't know if you have a quick question.
Nope, I was just listening.
Okay. You good, Joel?
I'm fine. I'm just listening.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. So if there's no more questions, then we can finish right now. I'll see you guys in a week. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.